Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. I know we've sent a short notice for this talk, but it's still, I really appreciate you're here, and I really appreciate Sole and Carolina for inviting me here. I'm here to talk about how to boost our children's confidence, and the reason why I want to do this, and this is part of my mission, is to create really love, peace, and joy in all of our families. Because I do believe that if we do that for our families, we'll do that for the world. Our world needs us, mothers and fathers, to bring peace, to bring joy. And I know that I want this for me, and I wish this for everyone. I want to experience joyful parenting. I don't want to experience stressful parenting. So the idea here today is how to boost our child's confidence, but also to create joy and peace in our families and in our parenting role. I'd like to start with a story. Yesterday Sophia is my second child. She's in EC4. And yesterday it was her passing on ceremony. Now we have graduation ceremonies from EC4 to kinder. It's nice. The idea was to celebrate all her achievements, her growth, all the effort she put in her work during the year. And I remember she's worried there, and she was saying, "Oh, mommy, what did I have to say?" Because she had a line, she had to express a line. She had to say, "We made new friends." Oh yeah, and she was saying, "We made new friends, we made new friends." I noticed she was a little bit nervous. So when the time came, they were all in a circle. She's the little one here, and this is the place where I was seeing them. I was seeing her back, really. And I remember that at first I was very proud and enthusiastic, and I felt happy. And at one point in time, she started doing this, pulling her clothes, biting her sleeve, biting her collar. And I started getting nervous, like, "Why are you doing that? Just stop doing it." And I was telling her, "Please, Sophie, leave your sleeve. Don't pull on your shirt. Don't bite your sleeve." And at one point, I was like getting stressed. And actually, Roman is my husband. He's here, the front, very supportive. He started doing the same, like, "Sophie, leave your clothes. Don't pull on them." And all the idea of being proud of her, celebrating, was kind of turning into another thing. So what happened to me is that at that moment I stopped. I said, what is going on with me? And I felt some kind of anxiety, and that anxiety was linked to fear. I thought it was fear of rejection, because I said, "Oh, if she's doing that," I went 20 years in advance. I said, if she's 30 and she's going to be at a job interview and she's going to pull her clothes and bite, that's not going to be good for her. She's going to be rejected. And I was in fear of rejection of her, but I was also in fear of rejection of myself as a mother. What would that say of me as a mother? Her biting her clothes. She's already 5. She shouldn't be doing that. Maybe at 2, we can let that go by, but 5. So all these thoughts were going on my mind. And I remember something from my therapy that I use every time, that is, really, we always have a choice. Either we are driven by fear or we are driven by love. And all of these thoughts were creating a lot of fear in me, anxiety, and I was not enjoying myself. And at one point in time, I said, what is it like to be in her shoes? And I saw myself from her perspective. And she was nervous because she was not going to remember the phrase, but she was even more nervous because I was judgmental, criticizing her, telling her that she was not doing okay because she was biting her sleeve. And there was a good reason for that. She was nervous. And maybe I could let that slip by. And I decided to go for love. I decided to be supported and let go of these thoughts. Because, of course, fear of rejection, I don't think in 20 years she will be biting her sleeve in a job interview. But our mind doesn't recognize the truth, And it comes with fear, it comes with anxiety, and we don't recognize what is true or from what is not. So I was acting upon an emotion, and I did not realize that until I became aware and I said, no, this is not right. I'm going to move into love. And so I let go, and we, actually both of us, because I told Roman, why are we doing this? And we looked at each other and said, well, I think that he did this, okay, let this go by. And she stopped biting her sleeve and pulling her clothes. The moment we let go, it's like if we were connected energetically with her, you know, like the moment we stopped being judgmental and criticizing her in our minds and in our attitudes, she stopped doing it. And she was at peace. I mean, I think she felt our energy, you know, like, so, and we could enjoy it with her, and we were so proud of her, and we could express it. We were not only proud in our heads, but also in our bodies and in our expression of it. And this is my story. But this happens all the time. We have our values. Our values is what is important to us, what matters for us most, and our actions. And sometimes our values and our actions do not coincide. And I know that because I suffer this every day. The day I will not suffer this difference, I will not be here on earth, I think, because there will be nothing to learn. But when this happens, it causes problems, it causes tension, it causes anxiety. I'm an idealist, and I want to create this. I want my values and actions to be totally, aligned, so that I can bring happiness, I can bring joy and peace to my life. And this was what happened yesterday. What I value, what I care for, was Sophia feeling confident, Sophia feeling loved and accepted, and what I was doing was criticizing her, nothing to do with what I wanted. So once I realized that, I moved into another type of action that was more aligned with my values, and we were all happy then. And this is what, and I wanted to bring this because usually, speakers like me come and say, well, this is the 1, 2, 3 steps to build your child's confidence, and once you have this done, you'll do it every day and you'll succeed. I don't think that's a good promise of me to you. My promise for me to you is for you to learn ways into gaining awareness and moving from this tension to a more relaxed and aligned way of being. But this movement has to happen every time. And I don't want to talk about actions that build confidence, but values that build confidence, because each child, each parent, each moment is different. And they don't need all the same. Like, if I were to tell, this is the recipe to build children's confidence, it will be applicable for one every 1 million cases. So what I want to talk is about values. Values are these things that matter, these strong, let's say, there are strong beliefs and ways of thinking of what is important, what is good for us. And they underlie our actions, and they motivate our actions. And the more we practice being in alignment with our values, the more we can be happy, actually. And this difference between our vision, which is living from our values, and the reality, creates a tension. And this is a creative tension. And this tension pulls us to do something. So every time you feel the tension, every time you feel the anxiety or the anguish or something that is not relaxed and peaceful, there is a tension. And this means that you're in misalignment with one of your values. And so that time is a time to just reflect and say, what is important to me now? And move towards that vision, that is what is important to you. And again, the vision for me is to bring peace, love, and joy to our families and confidence in our children. So before going in there, I want to do an experiment here so that you can have the same tension I felt yesterday, at least reminded. Just remember the last time. First, how many of you have more than one kid? Almost all. Okay, the ones who have more than one kid, choose one kid. You have it in your mind? Okay. The other ones, choose your kid. Okay, one kid. Now you have your kid in your mind. Now for one moment, you don't need to close your eyes, this is very easy. Just remember the last interactions you had with your kid. Maybe it was this morning, coming to school, preparing the lunch boxes or breakfast, or putting them in the car or in the bus, or maybe last night before going to sleep, or bathing them or helping them with their homework. So remember the last interactions. I'm going to see if you have it. Are you there with your memory on your last interactions with them? Okay. Now for a moment, I'm going to ask you to do an experiment, which is switch perspective. Go into your children's eyes. So change yourself into your child's perspective and look at yourself from that perspective. In that time you chose to remember. And think, what might he or she be feeling at that time? What might she be or he be thinking? How you're treating him or her? Maybe it was a good experience. Maybe not. And maybe it's both. I'm just looking for you to connect to an experience with your child. Now that you're in your child's perspective, I want you to raise your hand if there was any tension at all. Okay. For 5, 6 brave ones, okay. The other ones, I guess you got a nice feeling. It was a good moment, right? Well, the ones that are in a good moment, I want you to go to a bad moment. And I'll tell you why. Because it's usually difficult, and I applaud the ones who raise your hands, because it's difficult to see ourselves in our most vulnerable moments. And for us to grow and to learn, we need to go there in our darkest periods. That's why I'm not asking you to tell it. This is for you. So it's in your mind, it's in yourself. I'm not going to ask you to share. I'm just asking for you to be there. Harmonious lives. And kids were really confident. They did not fight each other. They could do so many things that our kids couldn't. Like, for example, since age year and a half, they would be in the jungle, because they lived in the jungle, alone. The mother would not be with them. They could just crawl through a place or walk. And what she saw was there were these big machetes on the floor. They were like places where they could fall on the river, or big, cliffs, and the children were left alone. And in the 5 years she was there was no accident. Only once, one kid, a 4-year-old kid, got pinched with an arrow, because they practice archery. And he was pinched with an arrow, because that was the only accident, and she was there as a nurse for them. She was bringing medicines and things. And she was amazed and said, there is something with this tribe, the way they raise children, that is different. And what she found out is that mothers and fathers trusted their kids to develop the necessary tools to survive and to keep themselves safe. Now, what do? We put barriers on the fences on the pools so that they don't fall. We keep them safe in other ways. And she said, well, don't go and bring down the fences, because if the fear is in you, they will feel it. If you don't trust them to be responsible and to be able to learn, then they will fall into the pool. And I did this experiment when Valentina, who's my 8-year-old, was 2 years old. I had a friend. We met at the park every day, and I told her, "Why are you always watching her? I mean, she can go." No, because every time I don't watch her, she puts herself in danger. But isn't your fear? She's a psychologist, so we talked about, isn't this your fear? Yeah, but well, I'll let go. I'll do what you do. I don't know how you do it, but your kids go around and they never get lost, and I just trust them. I don't know, I trust them. And she said, well, okay, let's do it. Only 10 minutes went by, and her kid was with her head below a fence, not being able to pull her head out. I mean, I said, you know what? Don't do what I do. Do whatever you feel is safe for you. And I realized this. I realized that if we don't trust them, they will not be able to trust themselves, and they will not be able to learn, because it's not trusting them in general, trusting their capacity to learn. And of course, moderating the experiments, right? The experiments in terms of, I'm not going to leave my kid, my 2-year-old, with a machete in the floor. It's not me. I appreciate the iguanas and all the anthropologist findings, but because I have the fear, because I don't know if she or he can do it. But more and more, I let myself, go to the background of their lives, not their lives, their play. I'm not on top of them. And I'm criticized for that. For sure, from my parents. Denise, but we were with Sophia. Sophia just started riding a bike without wheels, supporting wheels, maybe 6 months ago. Yeah, 6 months ago. And now she has a bigger bike, and we are going into the street. And I went with my father, and we were walking, and she was on the bike. My father was like, Denise, but she's going to get bumped without car. And I'm like, at one point in time, she needs to learn, and I know, and I trust her to stop before the street. And I actually started, okay, Sophie, that was great. Now try to stop 2 steps before the end of the street, because if not, I had to run and say, stop. But more and more, I let her experience. And now, yesterday, she tried her new bike, a bigger bike, and she was stopping right on spot. She could control herself, and this doesn't happen from one day to the next. It happens in 6 months of letting her ride and not being like with her pulling her bike or leaving the wheels on just because she might fall. And I know it takes courage, but more than courage, it takes faith and trust in their ability to learn. And it's not only their ability to learn, but our ability to learn. Because they really trust themselves if we trust them, and if we trust ourselves. There are actually 4 ways in which kids learn when they are small. They learn from how we treat them. That is one. They learn from how we treat ourselves. So we may be really loving and caring to them, but if we are judgmental and criticizing or with ourselves, they will learn that as well. They will not only learn the positive attitude we put on them. So they learn from how we treat them, how we treat ourselves, how we treat our husband or our spouse, how we treat each other, and how we treat their siblings if they have siblings. So maybe like Sophia already saw how we treated Valentina, who is older, and if we told off Valentina for speaking out loud, she already knows that she cannot speak out loud or she cannot yell. And that's how they learn. So these are the 4 ways. So it's not only how we treat them. And this is interesting because we always think that it's only what we do to them or with them, but it's also what we do with ourselves. So if we trust our ability to learn. And this is what kept me sane, because as I'm pulled between this tension between living through my values, what I value most, and doing wrong things or failing at it, what pulls me back is knowing that I have the ability to learn. And I tell my kids this, I promise to learn to love you. But how is it that? Don't you love me? Yeah, I love you. But sometimes I will not be loving to you. What I do promise is that each time I'm not loving to you, I will learn how to make it better next time, how to love you. I will learn how to love you. I cannot promise that I will be loving 100% of the times. I promise that my love will take me through the learning I need to be loving to you. And I know this is hard because it's hard for me. I have tears in my eyes, remember all the screw-ups I did. So I'm just saying learning is the key. Having faith in our capacity to learn is the key. Now, the other one is humility. And this is something that I also working with business organizations, because we're so used to be the knower, the know-it-all. That's why I don't want to be the know-it-all. I'm not the know-it-all. I'm a parent like you. I've had more experiences and drew some conclusions, and I'm sharing with you. But I don't know all. I fail many times, and from those failures I learn and I share that. And all of us do that. And if we put ourselves as the knower with our kids, we even think we know more than them about themselves. Like, oh, I know what you need. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So just bear in mind that there is a possibility that we don't know. And just having the possibility to open ourselves into learning instead of knowing. Now, that was the first, faith, which is actually humility and trust in the ability to learn from them and for us. Second one, unconditional love. Unconditional love, for me, is one of my own most important values, which is just loving for what is. Affection without limitations. No limits to love. Sometimes we do this with our kids. Sometimes we don't. We want them to be a certain way for us to love them better. I know we don't think it, but we act like that. In my example, I acted like that. I didn't express unconditional love yesterday. I moved from that place into unconditional love, but it was conditional. If you do what I say, if you look like I like you to look, if you do it, I will love you more. It's not like that. Love needs to be unconditional, or it's not. Actually, it's kind of a redundancy for me saying unconditional love, because love needs to be unconditional, or it's not love. It's something else. It's codependency, it's in terms of partners, or it's just, I don't know what to call it, but it's not love. So unconditional love, it's just affection without limitation. So when our kid does that, it happens, right? And when they are small, we are more prone to, relax. But what if they do this when the nanny is on her day off, and we don't have the cleaning lady coming to clean, and we are at our father and mother-in-law's house? We want to kill her. Not kill her, but this is something, I think Freud said this, that we have this urge to kill our kids at some point in time. But we're so mad. How could she do this? Well, she was playing. She thought it was fun to do all of that. So the answer to this, I trusted. Yeah, maybe it was too blind, my trust. I should have limited some kind of materials, especially the drawing ones, and not leave her in the bathroom alone. That may not be for that age. Maybe for 2 years later she can be alone. But in this case, it's just value the being, tell off the doing. What I mean is, when our kid does something wrong, there are good reasons why she or he does it. Probably it's a mistake. My thought is, she made a mistake, but she didn't realize it about it. So I go with that mentality. If I go with the mentality, she did it on purpose, she's timing me. No. Our kids don't do things on purpose to bother us. They just do it to experiment, because they're curious, experience. They need to explore, they want to know how the paper looks. Actually, that paper, I know my younger kid goes to La Casa Amarilla, and they have this toilet paper, like sometimes on the, flowing from the roof. I say, why do they do that? And now I tend to understand why. It's to provide that experience that in my house won't happen in another place. Okay, so we can tell them, you know what, honey? I love your creativity and your curiosity, but you know what? In this house, we don't do this with the toilet paper. It's not I wouldn't say it's not allowed. I would say we don't do this. We don't yell at people. I understand you're mad. So I recognize what their value, what they feel, what they think, but I just tell them the action is wrong. The action is not what I expect or I want. That's it. So I tell off the action, I value the being. I separate being from action. Because if I tell her, oh, you are so messy, no, she's not messy. She made a mess, which is different. One thing is the being and one thing is the action. She's a wonderful, curious kid who did a mess in our eyes, because in her eyes, it's not a mess. So we want to teach her that this, for us, looks like a mess. And because it will take some time to put it back together as we want it. And probably in my case, I would ask them to help me put it back together like it was before. So at least scrubbing a little bit with me so that they understand what the consequences of what they do are. A little bit, just for the act of them gaining conscience. The other one is, in terms of unconditional love, is appreciating their uniqueness and valuing their strengths. And I would say this is one of my weaknesses, because I've been a perfectionist all my life. And this is my greatest pitfall, because I want everything perfect with myself, with my kids. I can't tell you how many hours I took to make this presentation, because I wanted, the picture to be perfect, and it's not good. It's not good for me, but I've learned here at Roosevelt from our teachers, and I appreciate that so much, because when they talk to me about my kids, I say, wow, that's my kid, and I can recognize their strengths. I can recognize how good they are at so many things. But because I'm trained to look at what's missing or what's wrong and to make it perfect or to improve it, I'm more prone to looking at that than looking at what they do well. So I'm learning right now with this beautiful school we have our kids in, and the greatest teachers for me, how to appreciate my child more. And I've seen them interact with the kids. And if you see them, you see how they focus on the positive. They just, wow, instead of looking at the result, they look at the process. Wow, you spent so much, you put so much dedication to your work. Even if you got it wrong, you put so much dedication. You are learning how to differentiate 6 from 9. You haven't still learned it. No, you are learning, and it's all about, the emphasis is put on the positive and appreciating. And I'm trying to do that more and more, even with myself. Like, good, Denise, you made a presentation from one day to the next. It's done. I'm here. There's someone filming me, etc. So all that happens. So I'm trying to celebrate a little bit of what I do as well, because again, remember, it's not how we treat them, but if we treat ourselves with a stick, you'll see that as well. So, again, and this is interesting because our kids do reflect that on us. My older kid tells, and I'm going to disclose something. If Dad was here, he would start scrubbing and saying, look, this tiny spot is still left here, like dirty, because he sees things I don't see. And so our kids start noticing the way we deal with things. And if we are appreciating, or if we are more on the criticizing, judgmental way. So focus on the strength, appreciation. I think that's part of our conditional love. And the third one is acting with compassion. Compassion for me is understanding plus love. So it's understanding that whatever we do has a very good and valid reason behind. And whatever our kid does also has a very good and valid reason behind. That is not doing something to bother us, or we do things because it's the best we can do, or what we thought best at that time. And bringing compassion to ourselves and to our kids, and being kind. I know that I still have to practice this, but here in Peru, I've learned a lot about kindness. The way Peruvians talk is much kinder than the way I'm from Argentina. We talk, for you it's like, I'm telling you off when I'm talking. I'm not telling you off, it's just my way of speaking. But that way of speaking has a little bit of coarseness or, aggression in it. So I've learned how to moderate myself because it's better for the other person. And I don't like to be, I don't realize it very much because I'm used to it, but, and even between us, between our parents, we sometimes treat each other a little bit, like we don't say please or thank you, and our kids see that. So why do they need to say please or thank you if we don't say it to ourselves, between us? So just bringing compassion, being kind, not only to them, but to our spouse, to our nanny. Today I wanted to kill mine. She had done nothing right. It's a new person who's working at home. And I told her things, but I was really like, I said, Denise, this is the time to give the example. And why didn't you ask me about the Valentina's food? Because now she's going for the third time in the week to eat quinoa and rice. And the other food was there in the fridge. But it was like, I wanted to say, what? I wanted to shout at her, I didn't. I just say, what happened? I mean, why didn't you ask me? I was frustrated, I was angry, and I took myself out of the situation, because when I'm like that, I prefer not to deal with anyone, because I know myself, and I need to. So if you can, and actually this is something, if we cannot act kindly and with compassion, we need to separate ourselves from the scene. It's better not to be with our kids than to be in a bad way. Just learn how to deal. I sometimes do this. I go to my room, I shout into a pillow, or I bump a pillow, and at one point in time, I did it with my kids, just to, not when I'm very angry, but when I'm a little angry, I do it just to show them that they can do it too, that they can be angry. It's not about not being angry, it's about managing that, not to hurt others. So compassion and kindness, I think it's one. So we have faith and unconditional love. Now let's talk about now, being in the present moment. Being in the present moment is just total focus on yourself and on others, on what you're thinking and what you're feeling, on what others might be thinking. Not being in the past or in the future, because the fear usually is in the past, is based on the past, of past experiences, or of future fantasies, I say. So if you're in the present, usually you stay there. And you're it's easier to be more compassionate and loving when you're in the present moment, and you don't get yourself carried away by thoughts of the future or the past. So listening is one. Being present for me is listening. And listening is not talking, not anticipating everything they say. Just listen. Listen with your ears, listen with your eyes, look at how they move, and be with them. And most of the time, I like to be silent with them, because then they start talking. They start talking, and when you don't talk, they start talking, and they talk more. And maybe you can encourage. So it's an active listening. You can encourage, wow. So you just repeat their phrases like, wow. So you fought with Fulanito at school, or Matias at school. And how was it? And they continue. So you can encourage them to speak. I like that. I will dread the moment when they don't speak to me anymore. So I'm leveraging all my pre-teenage years to do this. So for me, it's also listening to myself, listening to my emotions. How am I at that time? Am I at peace to deal with the situation? Do I need to do something for myself to be more available to them or to me? Acknowledge what you understand and check, because sometimes we hear them, but we don't listen to them. We think we hear something. They tell us, Mom, I got beaten by Fulanito. And in our head is, you did something wrong. For example, like, oh, but what did you do? Maybe she didn't do anything. But I eventually, what did you do? No. Okay, so you got beaten by Fulanito, and what was going on? So just check if what you understand is what they are saying. So you got beaten by Fulanito, right? Is that what you're telling me? Yes. Yes, he grabbed my toy, or I had a toy and he wanted it as well. Oh, so what happened next? So just questions, open questions, not directed questions, like yes, no answer. Acknowledging and checking that you understand what they say. And then respect them, anticipate. And here is a dad on the phone and the kid just looking to the side. Sometimes we will be interrupted. When we are with them, we know that we will get an important call. And instead of letting that happen without telling them, we can anticipate that and tell them, you know what, I'm going to get a call that is important to me, and I will not be able to play up when I get the call. And it will take a while. So but just telling them that it's respectful. When we have this rule at home that we don't pick up the phone when we are eating. But we are expecting a phone call that is important. We will tell each other, you know what? I may go out to pick up a phone call that is important, only these ones. I'm sorry, and I will make it up being afterwards here. But it's just appreciating the person by anticipating what you're going to say. Respect them, as you like to be respected yourself. You don't like a friend to be with you and, oh yeah, and they go and they leave you. Like, I was saying an important thing. I don't like to expose myself, or especially when they tell us important things. Just be present and try not to distract yourself. And if it's important, anticipate. You know, or what I do with my younger kids, because they don't have this measure of time, I put alarms. So if I'm playing with them, and I know I have something else going on soon, say, you know what? Let's play together. Let's do whatever. I'll put an alarm. And when the crickets come on, I will need to go to work. But knowing that, and now it's already like, we're going to play. You going to put the alarm, Mom? they ask me to put the alarm, just for me not to, because if not, I'm all the time, checking the clock or checking the phone, and I'm not present. So anticipating is respecting them, and us as well. Because if we want to go, we want to go. That's it. It's also respecting us. So these three values: faith, unconditional love, and presence, being in the now. Now, I want to end up with this. I think you and I, we are, yeah? Sorry. Yeah, I can send it to you, also. What I'm going to say, I know you're going to say, yeah, whatever. Okay, this is not the way you move a flag. Okay, I'm not going to move. I was going to move it for them to take a better picture. The perfectionist is there. Okay, I wanted to tell you something that I know that you might know, but I don't know if you feel. Sometimes I tell it to myself so that I can feel it, which is, I am the best parent my child has. There is no one, well, there is one else, my spouse, but I'm the only mother, I'm the best and only mother my child has. And unless I want to give them in adoption, which sometimes I want, no. But not really, and I don't want that, so I'm the best, and they chose me. I believe that. I believe kids we choose each other, actually. But, and even if we adopt kids, I think we choose each other. And we're drawn to the people that will get what we need in life. Learning, love, so many things. So this is something I tell myself. I'm the best parent I can be, so that I can relax. And I can fail, and I can learn, and I can pull up myself and go back and do what I value, which is create peace, love, and joy in our families. So, and in our world. Coming soon, as Soli said, I'm going to launch a book for joyful parenting, I would say. It hasn't got a title yet, but by the end of the year, I'll share it with you. And it's all about this, creating joy and peace and love for our families. From a mother's perspective, a mother that is not perfect, though she wants to, and someone who's an avid learner. I think I will be 120 and will continue learning stuff, because the moment I stop learning, I'll die. So this is my treat to you. Now I'm open for some questions, though it's 9 o'clock, 9:02, so I just want to tell you that, because you told me it's at 9, but we can take maybe 5-10 minutes for questions if you want to. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise.